So let's get started. As you've seen some of our past conversations, I'm not used to doing a bio or introduction to who you are. I'd like to start by you telling a little bit about what you're currently doing. What is your business?
Yeah, so my business name is Social Media Love, to start with. And basically, I am in the field of social media marketing, consulting and training for female entrepreneurs and leaders who want to attract lovable clients, the client of their dreams, to their business via social media. That's what I do, and it's in a way that they don't lose their soul, their money, and their time, which is the most important thing.
So how'd you come up with the name? Sorry, I have to ask.
I think the thing is that I hear so much of negative stuff around social media. It's a place where you waste your time, where mean people are, and they want to steal our data. And for me, as a person, I built one of the best relationships ever in my life in the last 10 years, and it keeps growing that way. So my mission is to help people to kind of demystify the role of social media. It can be a good thing, like any human in your life. They can be, negative on you or positive. It's like in life, you pick and choose who's around you, and you do the same on social media. Plus, it can help you to grow your business, right? So that's I just saying the word love just infuses the tone, right? We're not going to be mean or vindicative, or we're not going to fight and conquer and compare with others. There is room for everybody. The world is our oyster, right? So that's where it's coming from.
So when did you first, well, I guess they might be the same question. They might be two different questions. When did you first start your business? And when did you first think of yourself as an entrepreneur?
So basically, I'm a lucky girl because I think I accomplished all of my childhood dreams, and I was done with those dreams at around 30. So my dream when I was 7, 8, so I'm from France, a tiny village, 250 people on a farm. We never really go outside of the village. Maybe we go to a city for school. But one of my first concerts in my life was with my guru at the time in Paris. So that was my first concert in Paris at 8. I think it was 8 or 10. So we are at the concert, and she's going to be on stage. But then there's maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people around us and kids, But the only thing I see is the camera people with those huge, at the time, I'm not that old, but still, technology is changing super fast. Huge cameras with the cable that the guys had to pull to make sure they had enough. And I was like, wow, that's the best job ever, right? To be right in center in front of the celebrities and all the, the imagination I had at the time. So that's the only thing. Plus they were cute guys. So I was like, woo, that was, me at 10, that's the dream. But I never really did the connection until recently that everything started there. And then when people were, what do you want to do when you're a big girl? I wanted to be either an international mediator to finish the wars between countries, or
those small goals.
Yeah. Or a journalist to help people understand that, we are able to, peace was a thing, right? So it's a theme. Love, peace, right? And so I became a journalist. And when I moved to Canada, so I did my master in France, I was a journalist already at the time in France, in different newspapers and radio. And then when I moved to finish my studies in Halifax, I became a video journalist, and I was the first one to get a job outside of the university as a TV reporter. So I had my own camera, I had my own edit suite, and I was living the dream. Plus, I met my man in PI. And then so kind of living in Canada, I thought I would do that when I would be 50. In my imagination, that was, you have to be wise to live in Canada. Like it's for older people who, that was that was where I was. And here at 23, I am already there with my camera. So that's why I say, my big dreams were achieved. And then I fell in love and I got my baby. So what else, right? So I need to visit Canada, but now I have a husband. And so life happens, and then he gets moved to New Brunswick as a journalist as well. And at the time, I couldn't find a full-time job. So I went like a lot of people do here in New Brunswick and Fredericton, they work for government, right? But with all my background in PR and journalism, it was quite easy for me to find a job. Plus, I was speaking the 2 languages of New Brunswick. So I got a job there. But then that, thrive for, being behind a camera, it allows you to see the world with a lens. And interviewing a lot of leaders in the political world, cultural, business, and mostly women, I was like, even though I was with the camera, I was like, wow, how does she dare to say this in front of, and some women would come to me with my camera and say, I want to be interviewed. I'm like, wow, I was admiring that. But some people were super shy, and they were amazing people, but I would have to beg them to be on camera. So that's coming, like, it makes sense with what I'm becoming, right? So I do the job at government in PR, communication. And then I lost twice my job. They cut my position. So this is when, you get resourceful, you get cut, but I'm not going to die like that. So this is where entrepreneurship kicks in. So at the time, I had a lot of health issues, and they discovered a bunch of food intolerances that were making me sick. So I developed a new way of cooking, and I helped so many people to, eat differently and have fun and be creative. So that was my first business. And I'm like, okay, I lost my job at government, but what if I help people to eat without gluten, without eggs, without nuts, all the things, So that's how it started, by helping others and trying to figure out how to get a new income for me. This is in that context that I met you, right? Mm-hmm. Then I got, one of my big love is international stuff. So I went back to government for a few years as an international coordinator for international students. And then they cut my position again. And this time I'm like, this is it. Not anymore. Not a stranger person can decide when to cut my money or not. I'm going to be the one now. So this is where it became very serious. And I built business case and everything around my food business. And then I needed money. So I wanted to make a loan. And at the time, you had to kind of fill up a big form. And then there is a section called marketing. What are you going to do to market your business on social media? At the time, I had barely a Facebook profile. And I'm like, oops, I don't know. So I think it's this, like, when you build your business and like there is another thing to learn and another thing to learn and another thing. And this one was like, oh my God, it's a big one. But I think in the same week, I got an email from an ex-colleague. She said, hey, look at this offer, again, at government, because we're a government city in case someone is watching and they're not from Fredericton, New Brunswick. And then I'm like, yeah, I was saying social media coordinator, but I'm like, I don't know anything about social media, really. So she said, no, you do. Like, you have all the other skills. You can tell them that you're going to make, well. So at the time, I was a student of Brendan Burchard. I don't know if you know him. He was my guru at the time. It's all about how you influence the people who are around you. And I influenced my work committee, and they hired me, even though I didn't know what a hashtag was. And I still joke with my boss. I'm still a full-time employee, and we still say, what's a hashtag, by the way? That was almost 12 years ago. But this is how you transfer your skills and you make it happen. And then I had to learn in steroids, right? So not only I thought it would be helpful for me to build my business, to be in a social media kind of job, but what happened was not expected. I fell in love with the topic. I saw the potential for everything I was describing before. How you can connect with people, how you can make room for your own voice, your own message, your own leadership, how you can build movement, how you can, like, all the things that actually are happening right now on social media the good and the bad, right? But it's possible. And so it was very clear to me. And I'm like, okay, I'm here for something here. And then so and then I love my colleagues, like everything was perfect. And then my friends started to come to me and say, hey, can you help me with social media? So that's kind of how it started. It was helping my friends. And at some point I'm like, maybe I can make money out of this. That's the story. Like, it was a long story, but because now I'm at 46, I can connect the dots very clearly, where I'm coming from and where I'm going. So that's the story.
Hindsight's usually pretty good that way. You can see the pathway. So now you have more control. If they cut your position again, you're not at anywhere near as much risk.
No, and I know because it's one thing to have an idea, to build a business is just how do you build it in a way that is sustainable and scalable, right?
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of time and a lot of work in your head. So now it's not like it's a rich experience of trying different things and the path that it took to where I am now and the purpose behind it. At first, maybe I didn't have a clear purpose. I was helping people who needed me, but now more than ever, I think we're in a time in history where it's time for women to claim back their seat at the table, in the patriarchy of things. And there is no boundary on social media except your fear and maybe technology if you don't have a connection. So most of the women I work for, they are blocked by the fear of showing up. And amazing women seem to not know what to say. They think they don't have anything to add to the discussion. And each time I'm like, what? So I'm here to unlock that, plus the strategy and the stuff. But it's really about, who you are as a woman with a message as a leader to influence, even if it's your family or your community, your city, the world, like whatever you dare to dream of.
So a couple things there. I like that, and I didn't realize this, that your social media consulting starts from an understanding of communication and understanding narrative and understanding key messages and understanding seeing through the lens. I know a lot of people who, are social media consultants who aren't as good as what they say they are, but they're coming from a technology point of view first. Mm-hmm. They're coming through, I understand algorithms. I understand, the automations. And those are important things to know mm-hmm. when you're getting heavy into automation, but I think it's the softer skills and the understanding and the nuance of communication that it's an important component for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. I was doing no later than yesterday, I was doing a testimonial interview with one of my clients. And I always ask, what was your expectation at the time when you enrolled versus now? What did you discover? She said, well, I went to you because I wanted to do Facebook ads because I needed to fill up my programs. That's it. I thought you were putting an ad and then people would come, but you taught me that, hold on, baby, you need to be, we spend have one program, it's a 12-week program, and we spend a lot of time on figuring who you are, who you want to show up as on social media, because this is where it gives you the confidence to keep going. When your desire and your mission is stronger than your fear, because it's scary to show up on social media or any online platforms, because as soon as someone sees you, they judge you, right? So how do you build that in a way that your mission is stronger than all the thoughts that we create or the judgment we hear? It has to be stronger. So we spend a lot of time on that, and a lot of time it's trying to build a new belief around what you want to think about when you die and you look back, without being glauque or anything, right?
So, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because one of the things, I moderate and I work with a lot of peer groups for entrepreneurs, and almost all of them, we run through exercises of looking at your 90-year-old self and writing your eulogy and putting yourself in perspective of what you really care about. It's really that self-awareness makes a lot of other technical decisions a lot easier.
Yeah.
A couple practical things. I'm curious about when you decided to like, you know, you were helping some friends, you have a job they can cut anytime, you've learned, but you have started doing your own thing. It's now a business. What how did you package it? How, because you mentioned now you do this through a program, but you could do it as like, I know people who do it like an hourly support or, you know, weekly, monthly packages for businesses, but you've decided to educate people through a program. How did that come about?
Well, when I first started, I was what one of my coach said, a Chinese buffet, right? You could eat everything you wanted. And at the end of it, I was exhausted because I had to customize everything for everybody based on, you know, their need. So it took maybe 18 months for me to streamline my business. And I invested in, business coaches who know what they're doing and who kind of look like what I want to look like in maybe 2 years or 3 years. And I'm like, okay, how did they do it? How do you scale that fast, right? And so the thing is that streamlining, because at first we want to serve everybody, because it's amazing what we create, right? We want everybody to know, we want to serve everybody, but then, you know, we don't have energy for everybody. Plus our message gets diluted, you know, like, so I had to really focus on women entrepreneurs and leaders instead of businesses or people, right? People who need my help. Like, it's really, it had to come to, you know, what was meaningful for me. And as I told you, my background is in history and international relationship, and it's time for women like to use those technology to take space. Not against men, it's not what I mean, right? It's just easier now than ever to kind of cut the patriarchal systems we've been playing with for centuries, right? So social media and online digital platforms are amazing for that. So for me, it was like, okay, I want to serve that market as a woman. And also, I discovered the beauty of having an idea, and then it becomes a project, and it becomes a business. It's crazy that we are the own source of what we build. So I'm like, I want to help more women to do that. And using social media, because it's a free way at first. It can be free. Even if you have no budget for ads, you can do it for free, right? So I wanted to help women that had to develop their influence online and being able to share their ideas, insights, and expertise. Because a good way to attract people is through your expertise. And then once you get people through your expertise, you can go beyond. You can go through the big mission, right? We always say people, they know what they want, but they don't really know what they really need, right? So the expertise is great to attract your bees to the hive. So that's how I decided. So what is part of all my buffet? What is the one thing that could be the foundation that they need? Because each time I was coping with clients who wanted the big thing, but they had the feet were not grounded. So it was hard for them and for me. And I felt like, I can't have them. So now we start with the beginning. And all the time, and women are good at that. They're like, I want this now, and we're going to do it big. And I'm like, hold on. We need to see your foundation. We do the foundation, then we do. So that's why we always have the 12-week program. And if you want to continue to do the big thing, there is a VIP program that is one-on-one. But my goal is to really build the foundation for as many women as we can as a group and develop that community around women, because I find that more and more women are not only supporting each other, but they're buying from each other. They're building, they're knitting links between their businesses that kind of generate wealth as well within communities of women entrepreneurs. And that's, I don't know how you call it, microeconomy, I don't know, but that's what I want to develop even more through my 12-week program, to build that, connection that we can buy from each other and grow together.
I can picture the rest of my team who's in the live audience taking notes right now, because I would say that we have a bit of a Chinese buffet right now. I'm sure that word's going to come up in future conversations for sure.
But I don't like to say Chinese because I have nothing. I like Chinese buffet, right? But it's the way that's how she described it to me. And so you have to pick one meal, the meal that you can do and redo. And instead of teaching to one, you teach it to, or you share it with multiple people. So for me right now, it's 15 people at a time. But at some point, when I can hire a team, maybe it's 100 and 1,000 at a time, right?
Yeah. So some of the questions I like to ask everybody, the first one is, when you think back, especially think maybe of your current business or your food business and today, if I was to ask you what has been the most exciting thing that you've done as an entrepreneur, what comes to mind?
It is a fact that there is no more end for me. If I'm stuck, I know how to get unstuck. There is, before, something, a crap happened. And then how much, you see a big wall, it's like, we're done, we're screwed. But that thing is, for me, it's like a life safety for any situation. I can create my own wealth. And when I say wealth, it's financial, but also the resources of my mindset that is strong, like crazy, and stronger and stronger. And so I don't know when I die, how strong I'm going to be, but I feel that there is that huge tank that is far from being full, right? So this is that power, that inner power that for me, it's like it gives, it removes anxiety. And I'm not saying that it's easy or there is no stress, but I know I have it in me. And this is really what I learned along the way, and so now it makes me sad when I hear someone, I can't do it. I have no time, I have no money, I don't have it in me. I'm like, oh, this makes me die now. Yeah. Yeah.
So the complimentary question that I like to ask is and one of the reasons why I like having these conversations is showing a broader group of people that most business owners or entrepreneurs don't have it all together. Mm-hmm. There always something they don't know, mistakes they make. So if I was to ask you, looking back as your career as an entrepreneur, your different projects, something that just makes you cringe as a mistake you've made that you're like, I can't believe I did that. Does anything come to mind that you're open to sharing?
Oh yeah, it's me. I'm the biggest block of my business. It's not the finance. It's not the partners. It's not the clients. It's not the banks. It's not my employer. It's me. And each time I have a block, I need to work there. I need to unlock. Sometimes it takes a few weeks. Sometimes it takes a few years, right? But so an example of this, price. How much do I value my work, especially in the service, well, it's hard to put like tangible, what, and we have a tendency like at school, that's why I don't like school. That's what the little girl I used to be, identify my grade to who I was. So I had a bad grade, I was a bad girl, and a good grade, I was a good girl. That's crap. And it's the same with the price. Oh, I can't charge because, I'm not that good. And then the mindset, the thoughts, and, all those, So I started my business in exchange of apples because I could not charge. That's how my self-esteem was. Couldn't charge, right? And now my offers at 5 figures. So just to give you the amount of work it took, when I say years, this is an example of years. And now I don't feel the pain anymore to say my number. But the next time I need to go maybe 6 figure for my offer, it will be another work, right? But it took me 10 years going from Apple to my program right now. And that was really about, it was not even about what I was giving to people. It was believing in the right beliefs in my head, stopping to doubting. Like even if my clients were successful, I was still doubting, and I'm still like, I still pay attention to this, right? But now I know how she thinks when I don't pay attention, so I catch her.
So that's a common challenge, and I'll tell you, we're experiencing some of that ourselves. I'm wondering if there's any learnings you've had going through that 10-year process. Is there anything, do you think, you could have told yourself 10 years ago that would have allowed you to overcome that sooner?
Yes, hiring coach sooner. Because, the money block, I don't have the money, I don't have the money, I don't have the money, took me away from people who did the work already and could have helped me earlier. So now I am on that, I get the help I need. I know I need the help. I recognize, I don't see that as a weakness. So for me, like, and that would have helped me to be ready earlier if I had known enough, past the judgment of, coaches, or for people who have nothing to do basically, or extra money, or who needs coaches, right? I know what I want to do with my life. So maybe the ego was a little too strong, as well as my fear, right?
Yeah. The whatever happened, and this, we're jumping a little bit all over the place. What happened with your first business? Did you formally close that, or did it sort of just continue?
Yeah, sorry, there is an alarm going on. Okay, sorry. So again, that's a Chinese buffet story. I can do it. I had 3 businesses at the time, actually: essential oil, food, and social media. But our brain power and the work that it takes to focus on one, if you want to take off, the idea is to sell your business at the end, right? For me, it's a successful business is something that you've built along, and now it's ready to be handed over for legacy, for whatever, right? But so when you have so many things to handle with different topics, plus a full-time job, like literally I could feel my brain exploding. So I had to clean, not only my mindset, my thoughts and my beliefs and stuff, but I had to clean the amount of time I was focusing on what in my life. So streamline that. I have a family, I have a full-time job, and I want that business to thrive. So pick which one. And that's, again, when I hired my first coach, she said, you're going to have to choose. And I never choose. I think I chose 3 years after she told me, right? So stubborn is also another thing with me. I'm not judging myself, but when I look back, I'm like, just listen to people. That would be the one thing. Listen to people who've done the work you want to do. Listen to them while you do your own choice. Like, nobody has the answer for you, but be open to listen and then make your decision. So maybe that was the thing for me, is like, I can do it myself. I don't need anybody else to tell me what to do. And I don't think people, like good coaches, they don't tell you what to do. They just guide you, and then you do your own decisions. But probably I wasn't ready to hear it at the time. Yeah. So that's what I would say.
So one of my favorite pieces of advice, just as a small tangent, is strategy is more about what you say no to than what you say yes to. Yeah, it's definitely
So I had to
focus.
choose, and so for me, I think I can influence more people online than, like, for me, it's like, where would I fulfill my need of helping more women? And it was through the online world, because of that endless platforms we have, and that's what I chose.
We have an interesting question from the audience. Have you ever had a client with values that are not aligned with your own, and is choosing who you work with an important part of your process?
Oh yeah. Now I have a new technique. It's very new. It's called unselling. So when someone wants to hire me, you see the lapses I've done. I feel that I'm hiring clients, but they're hiring me. I'm going to say stuff that if they need a door to get out, they can. right? Because sometimes, a lot of time, people don't dare to say no, so they're gonna keep talking and keep pretending they're gonna hire you. And when I feel, so that's intuitive, right? When I feel it, I'm gonna say a few things that give them a chance to say, okay, I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna talk to my husband about it, and then, or and sometimes just giving that freedom to the other person, it helps them to say, no, I want you. They want you. Like, it's becoming clear. It's just because it's scary to hire a coach, right? Because it's an investment of time and money, and then you're gonna change. And are you ready to accept the change? Because you're gonna become someone else, especially online, right? People are gonna see you again. It's like, who's that, right? So I try. It's one of my coach. She says it's an unselling process when you get the extra, like a sales call. When you don't, when the person you feel there is a block. So it could be a very like normal block, or if it's too deep. I don't want to waste my time to convince people. Like, when you come to me, I know the level of awareness I want people to have. They have to do. They have to have done some work on themselves, or at least show me they're open to it. Otherwise, it's too much. And then it doesn't work, right? So far, I'm lucky. I don't have hundreds of clients either, right? So, but I get to pick and choose. And I did a mistake before to take anybody, and then especially on a 12 weeks program, or sometimes I take 9 months. It's long when you don't fit, right? So yeah. I unsell.
So how did you learn about unselling as a practice? Is that something you just iterated over time, or did you read?
No, it's from one of my coach. Yeah, because it's a pain that a lot of coaches have. They enroll people, and then people are struggle. They don't want to do the work, or they complain, or they don't agree. Like, when you work with someone, you become my family. I give you everything. So I don't have the energy, and this is where it's not about money. It's about really the transformation, because it's very I don't know. It's very human and spiritual at the same time when I work with my woman, because it goes to who they are as a woman, as a human being. So you can't pretend that, right? So that's why it's important to really feel it before they get in, right? And sometimes you want the money, so you're like, oh, maybe it's gonna do it. But then each time I don't listen to my intuition, I pay for it. But it barely happened.
So it sounds, so you don't, would it be fair to say that you don't really work to help businesses grow? You're helping to help the individuals, the entrepreneurs themselves. Or do you work with some people who is just about their business's social media?
I don't think it's possible. You can't. I think your business grows as much as you grow.
So what do you think about people who maybe they don't want their personal brand intermixed with their company brand?
Yeah, so that happens. So it's a different approach. It's not a different approach in terms of you're still the founder, you're still, the one behind the brand, but it's not your name or so. But it's kind of, I have one client like that. It's the same process. You have to be very grounded on your brand, what your brand is about. And even if it's not your own values, it's probably related to your own values. And so it's the same work, except we don't show you. And well, it's not that we don't show you, but you're not talking like an I, or you don't make you the center of, the branding. It's your product, the way you make the product, the way the product respect the environment. Like, you put the emphasis on the thing. So that's why I like to work mostly with coaches, services-based businesses, because I like that a lot. I like to go with personal brands a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a mix of connections over the last quite a few years. So for those who don't know, I owned and grew a company called Real Food Connections for 8 years. And that was very much an extension of my personal brand. I still have people who recognize me as the food guy.
Yeah.
And it closed, and it didn't close for great reasons. And a few years later, I started this company. And I definitely was not on board with having anything to do with my personal brand involved because of the personal investment it took. Because when things are good, your personal brand is helping. When things are not good, it's still your personal brand. So but I've recently, so I definitely started out the first year or so of not purposely trying to distance me as a person from the company. And then it was actually over the last November, December of understanding that this business that we currently have is very much an extension of the passions and values and things that I want to do. I'm still an audience of one, so I kind of spun my head around on that. But so that's why we're having this conversation. This is me being more personal branding.
Yeah.
But it's a big ask, and especially people who have gone through negative situations or slights on their character, or I was talking to an entrepreneur who actually had death threats on their family because of some random, like, it's just, so I mean, I was interested on, like, when do you think those lines, like, what would you say if people have those concerns? Where are the lines between your personal and your company online?
So based on my experience with some of my clients, they started at the personal brand. And then once, because it's kind of easier in a way when everything works out good, because people are going to fall in love with you before they fall in love with your service or your products most of the time. But then their idea is that, whether it's a personal or not brand, like the values that your products carries is gonna go over you. You know what I mean? When you can make your service and your product embody you, basically, without talking about you, this is where, it takes off. So sometimes it's easier to go through personal brand, then switch to no personal brand, but still infuse the same things through, a different approach, the way you different, like the way you position your product or your services, through values, through stories of your clients, through stories of your employees. This is where you're going to work more around who's behind your business. There is you, the CEO, yes, but there is also the employees, the clients, the partners, the community. So this is where it becomes, I don't say that you can't talk about that when you're a personal brand, but I would say that when you're not a personal brand, it's really going to be about infusing those values through different filters that makes your business what your business is about and how it influences the world we live in. So that's a lot how I do with e-commerce. Some people don't want to be the personal brand behind e-commerce. They want their product to shine. So then let's say that you take the one I'm thinking about is baby clothes line collections. So it's all about, 3 pillars where, one, we only hire local-based operations, like to make the clothes, to sew everything, to the design. We take our fabrics in Canada, and then we want to end child labor. Okay, so this is what the brand is about. Whether the CEO is recognized as her or someone else, the brand's value won't change. It stands for this. So you build your content, you build when you show up in a speaking gig, or it's all going to be about the brand's value, right? That's how I see it. Now, if you're a personal brand, you can totally do the same, but you don't have to put the person like heart and center of the thing when you're a brand only kind of marketing type of centered. That's how we do it. And then because people, and stats show it, people more and more, they buy stuff based on what it represents in terms of values, right? Before even the use of the object itself, right?
Everybody I've ever worked with, I make them watch the Start With Why with Simon Sinek, which is an old podcast, but it's like people want to buy why you do it more than what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So just on a practical level, with your awareness of social media and trends, COVID's affected a lot of things. And my understanding is that change is accelerated and there's new things happening. If you were to wave your crystal ball, are there any big social media trends in the next 1 to 3 years that you would bet on?
Well, what I see a lot is that, the sense of movement, creating movement on social media, it's always been there, but I think it's stronger than ever, not only because of COVID, but because of all the things we've seen in the last 24 months around, the Black movement, violence, and like all those stuff. I find that the COVID even helped those movements to get faster and bigger and more prominent. And I find that the woman movements, not the feminism thing, like the supporting woman entrepreneur is stronger and stronger, I find. And I find that movement around men as well, like around communities of interest, is showing up more and more. So I think the sense of community is going to be stronger and stronger for sure. And based on my experience, for people who were hesitating to go online, they learn a lesson. You can't wait. You got to be there. And so for the generation that is, 50 and plus, for some of the women I work with, it's a challenge because they say they're not techie, and they've been saying that for decades. So it's a big switch, right? But they're keen on learning, and they know that this is the only way. And I think they've seen it happen for them. Some people completely switch from the next day online, and then people notice them and they're like, oh, it works, right? Oh, okay, I got my first sale through a DM. Oh my God. And then, the big work started. I need to set up my e-commerce. I need to whatever they have. But I see the COVID was a bad for a good for some businesses, that even in the tourism industry, like I see it, like it's not a question of questioning it anymore. It's like, how fast can we do it? Yeah,
for sure. What about, so a couple more questions from the audience. I guess one of them comes down to, how do you market? How do you reach out, or how do you find the people? Is it referral, or if you do proactive outreach, what tools are you using?
Yeah, so I always recommend to have at least 3 sources of lead generation. So my big one, of course, is social media, and my main platform is YouTube. So I educate people on YouTube most of the time, and I always provide, free resources as well that people can download in exchange of their email. So that's one. The second one that I've been developing since COVID is speaking engagement like this, online or in person, when it's possible, right? So that's another one. And then another one that I am aware, that I wasn't aware until, again, COVID, is to make sure that when you enroll in programs or coaching programs or training programs, you swim with big fish, like the fishes that are at the level 1 or 2 rank above you, where you want to go. Because this is really what happened for me 2 years ago. I decided, I was scared of it, but I'm going to play with the big fish because they know. So I went with millionaires, right? And I learned from them. Guess what? They're scared as well. They have those fear as well. Those beliefs they work on every freaking day. So for me, it was like, okay, nobody has the answer. But they've been playing at it for a longer time with a bigger impact, bigger communities, or maybe not even communities. Some are very small communities, but with offers that are so streamlined that they hit the right nail, and they can scale their offer and then generate a lot of wealth.
So how specifically did you go find the big fish, and how did you swim with them? How did you get to know what they were doing? Did you join their programs? Did you go to conferences? Like, how did you do that?
A mix of that. So I am, I have so many gurus for every aspect of my life. It's overwhelming. So I am in a phase of streamlining that, by the way. That's the next thing. No more Chinese buffet around that. Because now I know something. I'm my guru, right? So until a few months ago, I wasn't sure it was my goal, but now I know for sure. It doesn't mean that I don't listen and I take guidance, yeah. But, and I think it's because I've swam with the millionaires or close to be millionaires. Not everybody was millionaires, but somewhere. I learned that we are the only vessel of our success. And the work that needs to be done is most of it here. Then you add the strategy and the tactics. Right, so that was good to see their tactics and strategies, and basically what they tell you is like, yeah, try this, see if it works for you. Try this. Like nobody's telling you do this, right? Because you are only you, right? So that was mind blowing for me. So that's why I say, go and so go to the big fish conferences, go to the big fish training, the one that are expensive, you don't have the money for, but you know that you are with the right people, right? I'm not telling you go with people you're not sure if they're scam or not, right? The one you're like, oh, if you feel that you don't belong, it's a good sign. Go there. And then here, once you're there, you're all sweaty, like, what are they going to think about me? I don't have my shit together. Well, guess what? They don't either in some aspect of their business. And then after that, you hang out with people that have the same, thirst for growing in their head as well as the business. So guess what? Every day you feel empowered because you have that community that is like, girl, you got this, and you don't compare. And then you're like, they're cheering on you, and beyond the cheering, they're calling you out when they see you go, whoop, right? And then after that, you get clients from that pool. And then you get new coaches from that pool. So it's been like that for me for the last 3 years, which I didn't expect. I didn't know you would go, when they say it, the 5 people that are around you are the one that makes you who you are and how much you can grow. And that's so true. So once you do that at the mastermind level or the training level, it does that effect. It just takes a little of courage to say, okay, I'm going to invest that, that big investment of time and money. And I'm going to be like, whew, what are they going to think about me? Because I'm not like them yet. But and then it builds your confidence big time.
Yeah, that's really, really important advice. However you term it, what kind of bird you hang out with at the circle of 5, but it's getting the courage and challenging yourself and having something. Yeah, all really great stuff. Another question that's a little bit more detailed on something we already talked about earlier. What would you say to one of your clients or any female leader who is hesitant to put their brand online for fear of being judged? Which is probably a lot of them.
Yeah.
Not just ladies, but everybody.
Yeah. So depending on how I feel the person again, I would ask, where is that story coming from? And then this is where you go in the magic because most of the time it has nothing to do with the business. We carry the stories we went through when I'm not saying, you were a poor child and it's not what I'm saying. It's just we've been with thoughts in our head for years that are like, if you could see my screen here, it says, don't believe everything you think. Because, and so that's, it's years of working with, and my current coach she's very strong on that. She says, fear, we all have fear, and you hear a lot like, ignore your fear. No, fear is here to stay. Okay, so acknowledge it. And so there is a lot of breathing exercise you can do yoga and stuff. But once I stopped trying to fight my fear, it helps so much, because it's like, okay, the fear is here because any change we want to do, and you see that in corporation, in government, each time there's a change, people are like, they panic because it's going to change everything. It's going to change who you are, the way you do things every day. So fear is kind of an auto protection thing we have. So what we have to teach our brain is like, okay, fear, I got it, but look, I can do this. All right. And then this is when you start, why it took me years to raise my price? Because I come from a small farm, and it's not my parents' fault, right? But here's what I was hearing when I was a little girl. Those Parisians who have their second house on the weekend, they have a lot of money, right? We're not like them. We stay on the farm. We just go 7 days a year at the water, because at the sea in Normandy, if you want to know everything, because it's important for the girls to breathe the maritime air. Okay. So that was my parents' mission. But we could see like the Parisian every weekend driving from Paris to the village with their nice house. And then my parents were renting their land from a castle. So you have the collective history of the Middle Age here, the little girl, right? And I am into history, no question. Like everything makes sense, right? And I remember that I was a very solitary girl. I was living in the woods. I had my cabin. As soon as my homework were done, I took my dog and I would go to my cabin. And I was like, how am I going to change the world from the field, from the wood? Like, for me, it was like, how am I going to do that? I had no idea. And I remember, like, it's very clear. Like, I knew I had that mission, but from the wood, I had no idea with my dog how we would end up changing anything, right? So it's really those stories of being small and not being like others, like money was just for the rich, which is completely false. Money is everywhere. It's just once you stop thinking a certain way that it opens up, a good example around my food business, now it's coming back. I used to have a bistro at the market, at the Boys Town market, right? On the week, I was fired up, believing in myself, loving my sandwiches. I would sold out. On the week, I was like, fuck, I need to sell all of them because I haven't slept. And then, my cash was low. All those limiting beliefs I had, I would sell nothing. It was, like every Saturday, if my energy was right and aligned with who I was, I would sell out. Did you not notice that before? Like you were selling stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, so it's, all of this is very relevant. I grew up on a dairy farm. I was a chef by trade in a very low paid, like the food and beverage industry doesn't really set you up to think big in financial terms. I think it's all like your histories and the stories you tell yourself. I wrote down and underlined 3 times, don't believe everything you think. And it's a really important layer of advice for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny how, so what I would tell that woman is probably to go back to, why are you blocking? And most of the time it's stories that have nothing with, and then once you're aware, that's why I say for my clients, when they come to me, I want to feel they have a minimum of awareness that the brain is not just a brain. The brain is something we can reshape, and there is so much studies around neuroscience. And the more you learn about the brain, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. Even if you go you probably feel it when you're in a room, Zoom room or rainbow room, or even a real room, the synergy that happens between people when they start and the end of the meeting, there is something that happened. This is our magic. This is our human magic. It's the same in the cell system.
Yeah.
So
I've really enjoyed this conversation. I guess before we come to a close for today, is there anywhere or any messages that you would have liked to share or topics of conversation that I didn't get to?
I think you hit everything, and maybe I'm a little redundant around the mindset, but for me, if you're in a place where you are questioning what you're doing, or you have resentment in trying something new, or you hesitate and you say it's not the time, it's probably because it is the time. It's probably because it has to be done. But there is a resistance. And there are chances that your resistance is coming from a story that you're telling yourself. So spend some time The weather is nice. Just go for a walk and see what comes up, and ask yourself, is it true? And listen.
That's really great. One tail on question, because I think it'd be really valuable for some people to hear. If you're not in the mindset that a coach makes sense for you, whether it's financially, any recommendations on how to take the first steps of finding a coach that fits them?
That was my case for years. I did a lot of online, everything that was like the coach that, you know, when I told you about the millionaire, she was on my radar for 10 years. And the story was I had no money. Guess what? 10 years later, I didn't have more money, but I found the money because I was ready, right? So it's every day, book whatever you want. But for me, that's what the game changer was. A book time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, where you learn something. You find someone like that keeps showing up in your newsfeed, and you kind of each time you're like, oh, I'm not listening to that another crazy quote about being happy, you know. No. If there's someone that is coming back in your newsfeed or something that is like you feel like, that's probably because it's triggering something. So maybe start listening a podcast a day. And see how, like, don't judge yourself, don't judge the person. You know, when we show up online, most of us, we're going through our own journey, and we're doing the best we can to help. And I believe in that. Like, I know a lot of people say social media is crap, but I don't believe that. So, you know, even on the day that I don't feel like going live, because I'm supposed to go live at least once a week, I think of that one person that is maybe in her car on the washroom seat or in the living room, figuring out how she's going to make her life happen. And if this is you right now, and you spend like at least 30 minutes a day listening to something that inspires you, and you're not sure how you can implement it, that's okay. But then after that, the next step is start sharing what you learn with others. And then you're going to see the impact you start having on your friends or on people on Facebook or wherever you want to share what you learn. And then this is where, you know, the mayonnaise takes. You're like, oh my God, I'm not the only one in that situation. And then as you grow, you share what you learn. And it doesn't mean that you have to be an expert. That's, you know, I think you mentioned Gary Vee the other day, but Gary Vee says that all the time. If you're not an expert in something, at least share your journey with others. Because it's always a benefit for you, because it helps your brain to kind of soak in the new thoughts you're building, the new belief that you're building, you know. And then you're thinking, gonna say, who do you think you are to go and share what you learn? What do you think people are gonna believe you? Who are you? Look at what you did yesterday. You drank that full bottle of wine, you right? Who do you think? You know, you're gonna judge yourself. The more you're gonna take a risk, be ready. It's going to be crazy there. That's why it's important. The other thing I would say is to write down, you know, if you can, on a paper, you know, where would you like to be in 1 year? And I know it's another work to do, but where would you like to be? What would feel good? Don't worry about how you're going to do it, but what would feel good in 1 year, right? Is it that you can have that open conversation with your husband without being scared about it? That you get your son or your daughter to do that activity she's dreaming of? Like, what feels good for you in 1 year that you would like? And as soon as you put your intention on paper, magic happens. And it's not woo-woo. It's because our brain, you know, you focus on what you think. And then we're so busy in our lives. So if we don't put on paper, you forget. So this is why I'm into vision board a lot. But if you have a vision board, just write down, you know, in March 2022, what would be cool? How would you feel good if this happened? It could be a material or physical thing, or it could be just, you know, I feel, you know, when I wake up in the morning, I have energy now. I can run after my kids. I can say hello to the neighbor with a real smile. I don't have to fake it anymore. I don't know, whatever. We all have our stories, right?
No, yeah, absolutely. And that's a really great, another piece of advice to end this on. So thank you very much, Angélique. I think we'll call it to end for today. And we're going to come back to I hope you can stick around and join the rest of my team and have some follow-up discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love sharing those stuff with you guys because you seem to be on the same path. So I love
There's
it.
a lot of alignment, for sure. All right.
Thank you so much.